The Outer Worlds 2, when the ESG score matters more than profitability. But I have to say, this is my favorite double A Evoke slop that costs $80 by far. But actually, it's only $79.99, so it's not technically a Three branches, ropes, Minecraft now. Okay?
Yeah, things are really mixed for the Outer Worlds 2 right now. As someone who's covered the original Outer Worlds extensively, this is the polar opposite, man. The first Outer Worlds, there was a world, pardon the pun, of excitement for that game. Yes, some of it was definitely fueled by the screw Bethesda mentality because at that same time, Fallout 76 was fresh on store shelves, and then that following year, they dropped the Fallout First subscription program, which really pushed a lot of people to support
Hey, say what you will about Bethesda. They know that their slop lovers are gonna give them money for anything and everything.
Obsidian, and some people trying to spite Bethesda, which I get. Put your money where your mouth is. However, for me, and I know this isn't the case for everybody, I feel the Outer Worlds 1 has aged well, especially with all its DLC and the Spacer's Choice Edition. Like, I really love that game. I think Obsidian delivered. So to look at the Outer Worlds 2, which
Well, that's a rare opinion nowadays. Most people about the Elder Worlds 1 are pretty solid now. If you like the game, okay, you like the game, that's fine. It's not the most horrible game, but it's pretty bland. It's pretty uneventful. It's extremely safe. There's not a lot of roleplay choices, very little in fact, and Elder Worlds 2 is probably going to deliver even less on that fucking regard. So exciting, I know. Overall, the Outer Worlds 1 was extremely overhyped. That's the common opinion now that most people have. If you liked it, that's fine. Okay, again, it's not the terrible game, but it's definitely nothing to write home about. It's definitely nothing that's gonna actually get people to remember it a month past after its expiration date. And the Outer Worlds 2 is gonna be first than that.
has kind of first served itself up as the Outer Worlds 1, but more, having a lot of controversy around it is so strange. So as I took in those opinions, I walked away and went, all right, we'll see how it goes. But then I kept thinking about it more. I was on my walks, as I do most days, just taking in some nature, touching some grass, hanging out with my puppies. And I kept thinking about the Outer Worlds 2 and the situation it was in. I was like, how did we get here? Based on how Obsidian talks about their games versus where the fans are at. Like, how did we get here? And this led me down a very deep rabbit hole where I went, you know what? I want to have a big conversation about this because
How did we get here is extremely easy. But again, Matty is as all as all the Luke Stephens fixed their lives and skill ups. Vogue doesn't exist. So how did we get here? Truly a mystery. Who knows?
know Obsidian watches my videos. I know Xbox watches my videos. And I know many people who are fans of both those companies and the games they make watch these videos. So I was like, this feels like the right thing to do instead of the interview with the games director that I was originally planning. More on that later. But what I want to talk about today is sort of how the Outer Worlds 2 has been handled, where I think things are completely Obsidian's fault versus things that I really don't blame them fully for, which that list admittedly is a bit shorter. But we'll get into all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into what's going on with the Outer Worlds 2, we'll continue to cover it, but also
like, subscribe right now. This is like 500 years of good luck, okay? It's gonna be great. Just do it.
Obsidian RPGs.
Also, YouTube doesn't think that you're a human unless you subscribe, like the video, or, comment something below. I know, it's a multi-billion-dollar company. What do you expect?
Xbox games and so on. Consider subscribing.
None of us are human in their eyes, sadly.
So let's start off at the top. What don't I blame Obsidian for? Well, a lot of the initial screw this game energy really started, in my opinion, with Avowed. But if you want to go directly into the Outer Worlds 2, it was with the $80 price tag. That's where it really began. I don't blame.
I mean, it honestly began with Avowed. Avowed was an absolute 100% bait and switch. The original trailers that you can still find online for Avowed, if you haven't seen them, show a completely different game than what Avowed actually was. Avowed is easily a completely 100% DEI game. Woke undertones all the time. There's not a single woman in Avowed that actually looks like even a woman. Everyone has a square jaw, no body shape, no nothing. completely lackluster storytelling, completely frivolous and useless choices. Someone commented in a video a couple of days ago, and I think this comment is exactly on point, and it elaborates on something I said previously. It's the fact that there's no point in adding dialogue choices if those choices don't change the outcome. There's no point in any of that. If you have a dialogue choice of being angry, threatening, or kind, and it all leads into the same thing, there might as well not have been an actual dialogue choice, because it's not even cosmetic. It does nothing.
Blame Obsidian for that. You can quote me on that one, by the way, because I know, to my understanding, that was not an Obsidian choice. That was an Xbox choice through and through. That is why the announcement of $80 games ran through them. Again, feel free to quote me on it. The Outer Worlds 2, in any way, shape, or form, and I say this as someone who loved the first game, leading the charge for $80 games is one of the most horrendous decisions I've ever seen a business make. But we're talking about Xbox, who has made a lot of bad business decisions, so I can't be too surprised.
But don't worry, Game Pass is like super profitable. They remind you every week at this point.
Here, but I don't blame Obsidian for that. And bringing it back to $70 is a good choice, but now it's kind of brought in the conversation of like, how much is this really worth when you're looking at how hard AA games are?
What's better, this or this? Because like this, I can't actually see the screen. Okay? Awkward.
Are pushing right now in that $50 pocket versus the Outer Worlds 2's $70 pocket, and Obsidian admitting themselves that they like to make AA style games, as we'll get into very deeply later in this video. It does create a bit of uncertainty where Xbox is really pushing this price point on something that probably isn't worth $70 in the terms of presentation value versus the content that's there and hopefully the depth that's there. So I don't blame Obsidian for the price point, although I understand why the consumer would not be pleased with it. I do blame Obsidian for Avowed. That's a pretty big blemish, and it's a really weird feeling to be talking about a company known for a great RPG.
It's, by the way, insane, because everything that we have seen about the Outer Worlds 2 is just... It's Avowed in space. There's literally no other way to explain it. It's absolutely 100% Avowed in space. But maybe more gay.
RPGs, and out of the last set of releases, at least for me, since the Outer Worlds 1, having the games I like from Obsidian most being grounded in Pentiment and not Avowed feels really weird. But I also understand with the writing style of Avowed that it creates concern for future RPGs. Some of these writers may be also tackling the Outer Worlds too. I know there's been a lot of table setting here, but for me, since Obsidian...
Hey, if anything goes poorly, you know these bad writers at least have a place in Bethesda, probably working on Elder Scrolls 6. All the trash and losers get to go and work on Elder Scrolls 6. What a time to be alive.
Has been making great games in the midst of all this. It's why I'm not in that full send. They're bad now. Like, I think the argument I'd make is it's really weird to see them being great at other genres. Like, it speaks to their strengths as a team, but it's weird that they kind of lost a step with one of their RPGs in all of that. But now to the problems that I think are kind of a mixed bag of like Obsidian's fault, but also circumstance. Obsidian Entertainment has overexposed the Outer Worlds 2 at this point. This game probably was never meant to be getting this much coverage ever. Keep in mind, this whole saga really began with when we learned that Fable was being delayed out of 2025. We thought that would be the big game for Xbox this year, and we also thought...
Well, Fable's a 100% disaster.
This would be the big developer direct game at the summer showcase this year. When Craig Duncan announced
disgusting and ugly
that this would be delayed on the Xbox podcast, it was really disappointing news. And because of that...
By the way, my bet is on the fact that Fable may as well still get canceled. Xbox did a hilarious thing, and it happened like a year ago. They cut out a lot of WoW garbage from their repertoire, and, well, Fable didn't get cut out, but Fable's getting delayed, Fable's getting this, everyone's shitting on Fable, no one likes it, and I think it's still gonna get canceled. Now, granted, the funny fact is, Xbox canceled half of their Vogue shit, but, I mean, they're still fundamentally Vogue. the wokeness doesn't go away because you cancel these games. The wokeness goes away when you literally fire 80% of people working at Xbox, including all the heads of everything, because they are 100% that. You can't get rid of these problems by just saying, oh, we're no longer woke. No, the people who ruined everything are still there. Fable's still shit.
We knew some game had to step in and fill that slot, and we didn't think it would be the Outer Worlds 2. Why didn't we think that? Well, the Outer Worlds 2 just got a month-long coverage spree through IGN First. For those who don't know, IGN First is basically like the video version of the Game Informer cover magazine reveal. Like, it is tons and tons of exclusive coverage and previews and news bites throughout an entire month. When you combine that with the trailers that were already out, the interviews that were already out, and now you get like a 30-minute developer direct on Obsidian as a whole, with a lot of that dedicated to the Outer Worlds 2, that is a lot for a game that is kind of AA. And then you have to keep marketing it, and they did multiple previews. There was like 2 separate hands-ons, and the one I got, as I mentioned earlier, was just the
So IGN First is like a paid YouTube membership that just gives you videos? Okay. That's not really marketing, though. Maybe IGN's just doing that because they have nothing better to do. It's IGN at the end of the day.
Prologue, which I wasn't too thrilled about, but there have been hands-on previews for this game with like bigger parts of the game. So ultimately, I think this completely sideswiped the hype because the game got overexposed. We knew everything we had to know. People who didn't like the Outer Worlds 1 were already like, I don't want more of that, so I'm good. People who were excited already knew that they were buying this by name alone. And so this game became something Xbox needed it to become, which is like, hey, step out here and show us really what you're made of. And
wait, I just wanna mention how fucking retarded this is, okay? So this is a bridge that you need to cross. This is like one of the Obsidian's, oh wow, you have so many ways to get across the bridge. You can jump over it, you can sneak over it, you can kill everyone, you can help the guys. This is probably going to be the peak of the actual player choice, how you approach things. But I mean, look at this shit. Like, who fucking made this? This is so autistic. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you lifting the whole bridge on some kind of... I don't even know what this is. Why can't you just have a normal fucking bridge? Like, you know, in the real world. Not whatever the hell this is supposed to be. Like, this is so stupid. I want my worlds to look interesting, but don't make them autistic like this. Like, mother of God. How does this even make sense?
Something Xbox needed it to become, which is like, hey, step out.
I'm not even a hardcore architect kind of guy. I typically don't give a shit, but my God, this is just peak autism.
Here, and show us really what you're made of, and make the Outer Worlds 2 this huge game when it really never was supposed to be that. And I need to, again, emphasize here, this is something I blame both sides for. You know, like, no one put a gun to their head. But the problem with this is because of the types of games that Obsidian makes, which are AA style games. I think this is the most important point of it all. Like any other team under that umbrella at Xbox, the expectations for Obsidian rose following Xbox's purchase of them back in 2019. And our interpretation at the time is that all these teams that were flush with cash would ball out and make AAA games that were of our dreams. So teams like Compulsion will be able to make something big like We Happy Few, except it would be without all the procedurally generated crap. It would be like a real, true world. This would be supported by examples like Xbox helping out Psychonauts 2, getting its impressive boss fights into the game and making it one of the most memorable games of this generation, in my opinion. Or In Exile's Wasteland 3, where Brian Fargo said in 2019 that they were given a ton of cash, were told to make the best game possible, and they did. And the game also received a ton of additional voice work thanks to Xbox. So it created the expectation that Xbox believed in these teams, that these studios would escalate, and that we'd get these massive AAA games that would go head-to-head with PlayStation's exclusives. And Obsidian would be no different. However, what we would learn in the years to come...
Don't worry, guys. Xbox has games. You know, Xbox has games, okay?
...is that Obsidian, like a couple of other teams at Xbox, when flush with cash, would handle that new revenue very differently. Rather than going all in on one project like they eventually did with Avowed, they divided their teams, and I think this was actually a really good call. Grounded is a hit, as I said earlier. The first one.
People like Grounded. I have not played it, but this is an actual good game. People en masse like it. It's pretty neat. But everything else Obsidian makes is shit. And by the way, does Grounded even have a story? But it's not really a story game in sense, even if it has a story. I don't know. But, you know, Obsidian maybe is actually okay at making games like this, but not fucking story-driven stuff. They absolutely seem to suck at it.
One was a roaring success, and the sequel is killing it too if you look at the numbers. There's a TV show on the way, and that's more than you can say about literally any of Obsidian's other original IP. Pentiment, admittedly, not a big seller, but it absolutely delivered as a critical darling, and it gave reason to believe Josh Sawyer is still as goated as always as a game director. But this is all because Obsidian went lean and divided up all of these teams.
Wait, so what is this? Dude, you can't even show nuns in modern day Vogue games, okay? What the hell is this?
Didn't really massively expand either. Fergus Urquhart, who's Obsidian's CEO, said that when they joined Xbox, they were between 170 and 180 people, and now they're 285. That is a lot of people, but this is nothing compared to a AAA team, and this puts a lot of their projects into perspective when you know maybe upwards of 100 people max are working on one game at a time, usually lower than that. They were even very transparent about Avowed's transformation as a video game. They publicly admitted this not only started out as their own Skyrim, but also as a multiplayer game, and this had restarted development twice over. In talking to PC Gamer...
Oh, shut up. They didn't admit shit. No one cares about this. What we care about is the bait and switch that the first trailer did, and what followed.
Fergus Urquhart actually said that they focused on what they were good at with this game, which, you know, we can discuss the quality of the game all day long, and I'll probably agree with those of you who are very critical of it, but they got away from their strengths. So you have two instances here in the same calendar year of Obsidian saying, like, we are good at making smaller games, and we tried to make a Skyrim-like experience and immediately realized we're not cut out for that. So this is the type of game they're good at making, and I think it shows, but yet they're selling them for the price tag of full AAA games. You see where I'm going here? This is a big part of the issue. Before, by the way, anyone freaks out, we get into how they're kicking the hornet's nest with game romance. I have thoughts on that. But the real icing on the cake for Obsidian making AA style experiences was February of this year, when Obsidian's VP of development, Justin Britch, spoke at the DICE Summit about the sustainability of their company. And this is something that I think was completely overlooked across the industry. It was like a significant piece of information on how this company has made their games and will continue to make their games. In this, Justin spoke about a mindset at
Do we fucking care? Because again, everything they are currently making except that thing is bad.
Obsidian, what they call like the 100-year plan. It's not like a full breakdown, but sort of the idea of to last 100 years, what are they going to do? What is the safest route? And he spoke about, as Fergus had before, remaining lean, but also creating realistic sale expectations with their games. They determine their investments based on things always being mild successes, and they never bet on things being a smash hit. Think of like EA with Dragon Age of Veilguard. We saw how that game wildly missed its expectations. So for Obsidian, they kind of developed their games in this...
That game wasn't even AA quality. It was like indie slop at best.
Pocket of always being a little bit safe with it, so that it's pretty hard for a game to underdeliver. And that's probably why, even if, say, The Outer Worlds 2 does fail, that Obsidian would continue to keep on kicking, because they set realistic sales expectations for themselves, and based on their frequency of releases, they have great timelines, great production pipelines, so they're a well-oiled machine. Lastly, though, he speaks about building what they aim to be the lowest
well-oiled machine at giving shit. Like, what is this glazing? What is this useless glazing?
Turnover rate in the industry by keeping their staff on board from game to game and releasing games that are not rushed but frequent.
Bro, maybe you should actually fire these people because they have proved time and time again already being bad. Fire your artists, fire your storytellers, and I don't know, fire someone else just to be safe.
More specifically, he says that they're, quote, not trying to grow aggressively, expand their team size, or make super profitable games, end quote. And I think this is backed up all the way through. Obsidian is going on releasing 4 games in 5 years when The Outer Worlds 2 drops, and that's not including massive DLC or updates for the likes of The Outer Worlds 1 or Grounded. And outside of Kerry Patel leaving for the developers of Oxenfree and Tim Kaine choosing to retire/consult, much of the original squad from 2019's The Outer Worlds does remain intact. So I know people with like zero patience are going to hear all of this and think like, this is a lot of positivity. I want more critical content here. What's going on here, Maddie? Because this all sounds good. Like, the cold reality is...
Yeah. Well, no, actually, this doesn't sound good. This sounds forcefully said good. But it's not actually good. I see nothing really positive about this. It's just... It's just trying to hide ineptitude. That's what it sounds to me like.
Is that a lot of Obsidian's criticism that they have earned has come in a very, very small window compared to the scope of work they've done this generation, which is extremely impressive compared to the rest of this industry, but that they're shooting for reasonably sized games and trying to release more frequently. The problem comes down to that price tag. So what's the difference with The Outer Worlds 2 beyond being $70? Let's get into that. It's Obsidian welcoming the New Vegas comparisons with open arms and hyping this up as a much bigger video game.
Did they not say that they don't want to actually be compared to New Vegas? I thought they said something like that, or was it someone else?
For example, they hyped up the game saying that the critical path, aka the main story of The Outer Worlds 2...
Oh no, right. When... They abandoned this, right? I completely forgot. You probably also forgot, didn't you? When The Outer Worlds 2 was first announced, like 90% of their marketing was by the people who brought you Fallout New Vegas. By the team behind Fallout New Vegas. From the people of Fallout New Vegas, which is, by the way, a lie. It's a lie. All the people who made Fallout New Vegas have not been in the city Obsidian for I don't know how long of a time, but they're gone. None of those people are left pretty much at this point, if any, honestly. But Obsidian really, they really tried to sell this as, oh, the people who brought you New Vegas. Dude, if your game was good, then you would say, the people who brought you The Outer Worlds 1, not New Vegas. But The Outer Worlds 1 was not good, so, you know, they have to stick with New Vegas. And then, well, I mocked them. I'm pretty sure everyone honestly mocked them for saying that. And then they completely stopped saying, oh, from the people who brought you Fallout New Vegas. Nope.
Maybe 10 to 15% of the game. To me, that's that AAA speak right there. That's a huge video game. If 10% of your video game is the main story, and if you want to go ahead and line up my experience with The Outer Worlds 1 when it first came out, I did the main story and some side content, and that took me 30 hours. So I look at like Avowed, which was upwards of like a 60 or 70 hour game. Like, how big is The Outer Worlds 2? Furthermore, they even laid out the groundwork saying that these companions in the game will feature multiple endings to their stories based on what you choose with them. And beyond going more open with the game, like in the literal sense, they've also added third-person movement and camera control alongside a radio. When you combine this with everything from the first Outer Worlds game, you kind of have a Bethesda Game Studios Fallout-like experience.
This storytelling is probably going to be the equivalent of you playing Fallout 4. The Brotherhood of Steel comes on their Zeppelin, and Nick is your companion, and go meet them, and they're like, we need to kill the synths. And Nick right there, while Maximus is talking, Nick's right there just sitting, boop, ba-doop, ba-doop, ba-doo. Oh, it's so fucking stupid!
Experience, except from a way smaller team. And that's what's funny is Obsidian kind of built a lot of their reputation and their love off of being the little brother in a lot of ways. Like, they followed up KOTOR, and they did a great job with KOTOR 2. They follow up famously Fallout 3 with New Vegas and make what many people consider the best Fallout game. So now they have to lead.
True
and when they
real.
lead, and they don't change how they make games, but they're sold for the price of games that leaders charge them for, like $70. That's where you get a big problem here. So in turn, because of what Obsidian's saying about The Outer Worlds 2 and the price tag that's there, many have raised their expectations, and I understand why they're expecting more. The price is higher, and if you want to go into the development cycle, it's been 6 years, and so far we know nothing about The Outer Worlds 2 being anything else but a single-player RPG. So many of us, myself included, are thinking this game's been on a straight line, barring all the bumps that game development always expectedly has, for multiple years, and they've just been pouring into this game and pouring into this game and pouring into this game. And there had to be some expectation that this would be more than a mild success when Avowed, Obsidian would not commit to premium post-launch DLC for, and still hasn't, and I don't think they ever will, especially now that Carrie is gone, but also that The Outer Worlds 2
Rip Carrie Patel. God, she was hot.
has already confirmed it's getting 2
I could fix her.
standalone DLC. There has to be a shift in what the expectations of this game are versus what it is. But now we get to the hot topic, right? This is the recent hot topic that I know many people are really upset about, and it's Obsidian.
I'm sorry, but I can't even fucking tell if something's supposed to be positive or negative here. Like, Maddie is so fucking fence. He is the fence-sitting god at this point. Even Luke grows a spine for a nanosecond time to time. But Maddie is like fence-sitting like there's no tomorrow. The positive stuff was lukewarm. The negative stuff is even, well, it's as lukewarm.
Obsidian kicking the hornet's nest with video game romance. My personal philosophy with video...
You're not getting any of that. Plus all of your... Ooh, that's my wife. All of the... Did you see the trailer for the Outer Worlds 2 companions? They're all DEI hires.
Video game romance is simply this. If you're gonna do it, you can only do it extremely well. If you can't, do not bother at all. I think video game writing is so behind in so many ways, and video game romance is really tough to pull off. Understandably so. There's only a few games I think of, like a Witcher or a Knights of the Old Republic, where I'm like, perfect. And if it's not perfect, you can't do it. Now, this isn't new for Obsidian. Like, you look at The Outer Worlds 1, there's no romance there. Avowed, there's no romance there as well. So what's the difference this time around? Well, listen to when myself and Lord Cognito interviewed game director Carrie Patel about Avowed on Defining Duke and asked her about video game romance.
My question first is, okay, what was the design philosophy in not including romance in Avowed? And then, will we ever get Obsidian, the Black Rock, to ever, include romance? Sometimes you're on a journey with this person for a long time. You want to kind of take it further.
I'm sure.
So just a question on the design philosophy as to why not, and if the team would ever make a romance game.
Never say never. There are definitely people on the team, like myself included. I think it's a fun option to include in games. I am not against it in the least. The two big challenges are, one, it is a big additional burden on the writing and design. And I think the biggest
I can fix her.
part of that is if you are designing a romance path, I believe you need to make sure that your non-romance path is just as deep and meaningful and thoughtful. You don't want to feel like, well, I missed out on actually getting to know this character because I chose not to romance them. Again, it is a thing that can be done, but every game development process is a matter.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but is that a giant nothing? Okay, that feels like a giant nothing. Is that even an answer?
About like romance has to be in RPGs or not. That aside, that is a well-reasoned and responsible answer as far as I'm concerned. That's coming from someone who's extremely critical of Avowed. And the best part is, Obsidian has backed up Carrie's reasoning before. I look at Parvati in The Outer Worlds 1. Her story is about asexuality, and it was a very different perspective for RPGs at that time, not just from the theme of the story, but also...
Amazing, isn't it? Yes.
Hey, instead of like romancing this girl, you're playing wingman and helping her out in finding someone else. It was a really great story. I absolutely love Parvati.
Yeah, it's pretty gay, actually.
And that story could not have existed if you could romance her. So what Carrie says adds
Also, don't they do arranged marriages?
up to me. So it all works. It makes sense, and the product backs it up and provided me with a unique experience, a unique memory with a game that I love dearly.
And no, you can't sleep with them.
Okay, now whoever...
Thankfully, no one fucking wants to. Dude, remember the comments on that video? Oh my god. The Outer Worlds 2 is gonna be a disaster. It's so funny.
He's doing the marketing for the Outer Worlds 2 between the price points and then the companion trailer. Like, what are we doing kicking the hornet's nest saying, and no, you can't romance them? What game has ever benefited from antagonizing their audience ever? And I get it. The Outer Worlds 2 can get
Well, that's what folk idiots do. It's pretty common, in fact.
away with a couple of things because of how the Outer Worlds is about like corporate greed. And you look at the initial reveal trailer of the Outer Worlds and how it's narrated, like, it's hilarious. It's calling out a bunch of other standard AAA trailers by making one of its own. Like, it's a brilliant idea. That's where the Outer Worlds marketing shines. But whoever's leading marketing for this game right now does not seem to understand what made the first game tick with people, because you don't just lean
The implication that the first game ticks with people is kind of still wild,
into it
okay?
by insulting your fan base. Because while I'm not a huge video game romance fan, many RPG fans value it, and they've been very understanding with your games before and why they can't include it. And so when you decide to, instead of giving an explanation like Carrie did responsibly, you instead antagonize them, you really earn all the smoke you get. I can't feel bad for you at that point. It's frustrating to watch as someone who wants the team to succeed, because I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, you have what looks like, as I described in my preview, but I can't say for sure, the bones of a great RPG here. Shut the hell up and show that. Let's get into the final step of the conversation. Remember what I said at the top of this video, that this video wasn't originally the plan. What was the original plan? The original plan, while I was previewing the game, was to sit down with the director of the game and have a good conversation about what's going on with the Outer Worlds 2. But I ended up shutting that down until a later date when I know more about this game, because right now the Outer Worlds...
Okay. Oh, yeah, well, I'm not feeling sold. Don't know about you boys, but anyway, that was Mr. Matty Plays. 10 out of 10. I can't wait for this absolute garbage fiesta. Bye!